Welcome back to the Ranking of Naruto Games, the show where we play and rank every single Naruto game that came out in the West. Today, we're tackling the last Ultimate Ninja games, which were also the last Naruto games to come out on PS2, bringing about the end of a generation. And this video is brought to you by you. More specifically, the folks who have chosen to support this channel over on Patreon. At the end of every ranking video, I ask you guys, what games would you like me to rank next? This time I took those comments and made a poll over on Patreon, leaving them with the ultimate decision of what I was going to play and rank in this video. This is something that I'll be doing every month in 2021. There will be a poll and a video thanking everyone on Patreon for their support. Of course, that's not all you get as a patron. Every Friday there's an exclusive Q&A show. Every Wednesday there's a show that you can participate either directly or indirectly. And whenever I'm playing Fighters, Super Naruto, or any other multiplayer game, Patreon and Twitch subs get priority when I'm playing with viewers. Patreon also gives you the option to pledge for a full year with a 5% discount, which is something that you won't find on Twitch. So, if you want to become a patron, link down below, and thank you guys for your support. This video is for you. Naruto Shippuden Ultimate Ninja 4. Much like Ultimate Ninja 3, this game splits story mode into two different modes, Master Mode and Hero Mode. Hero Mode features the original Naruto story, but since Ultimate Ninja 4 was the first Naruto game that brought us Shippuden characters and story, we're gonna start with the Master Mode, which is where these can be found. Master Mode expands on the freedom of movement that Ultimate Ninja 3 started, this time dropping Naruto into a much bigger area, giving him new movement options and even platforming sections. I wish the wall climbing of Ultimate Ninja 3 was still there, but other than that, movement is even more satisfying than before, though some of these areas are a bit too big for the amount of stuff they have in them. Right at the start, it's just a huge area with nothing but boxes. And since this game mode is also kind of an RPG, you unlock abilities as you play, meaning that at the start, none of the fun exploration abilities are available yet. Eventually, you do get there, and they use Naruto's abilities really cleverly to create some platforming challenges. Though as fun as they are, the game never trusts that you've learned the controls. Every time you jump, the game's like, hey, triangle to shadow clone? No matter how many hours you are into the story, this message will keep popping up. Now, as you may have guessed, this part of the story is filler. It takes place during Naruto's training with Jiraiya before Naruto returned to Konoha. And no, they never explained the scrolls hanging from Naruto's butt. They look cool, I just have no idea why they're there. The filler story is quite bland. Little girl wants to be a sacrifice to a shadow puppy, who's the final boss of this mode. So Naruto slowly uncovers the reasons as to why she wants to be sacrificed and tries to fix everything so everybody can live happily ever after. The story isn't that impressive, but the production quality sure is. CyberConnect 2 does it again. They leveled up once more in the graphics department, in the quality of cutscenes, and it shows right at the start. The sun shines bright in the sky, bathing the leaf forest in sunbeams. Naruto rests in the shade after a long day of training. A frog commits suicide. But the big downside to this mode is definitely the combat. It's a brawler style combat that some could call it the precursor to the Storm series, but oh my god, it's so much worse. You mash circle to pull off combos, sometimes you hit triangle when a prompt appears, and that's pretty much how much depth there is to it. Each time you press circle, Naruto throws multiple attacks, which makes this combat not that snappy when you want to stop attacking a target and change to another target. And you just keep fighting the same enemies over and over again until you reach the boss fight, which, despite having some unique mechanics, doesn't really shine in the fun department either. The camera can also get really wild. This also happens during the exploration moments, but especially in combat since Naruto's movement is really fast, and I like the look of it. It's really flashy, but it just doesn't feel good in any way. Now, this whole game mode is about 2.5 hours, so it is a bit short for a story mode. Credits roll, and psych! Here's the real Naruto Shippuden story post-credits. Oh, we've been baited, folks. The credits weren't the end of the game. From this point on, you keep your movement abilities, but you're using them to explore every location between Konoha and the Sand Village, giving the Naruto world a sense of scale and place. There are still a lot of empty areas, but now they're not the goal itself. They're just the path towards the goal. This part of the story doesn't just have you playing through the main story, it also includes a ton of side missions as well. Most of them are fetch quests, but they're generally well written and use the Naruto characters really well, so if you're not skipping dialogue, it can definitely be fun. Now, as you know, Gaara gets captured by the Akatsuki at the start of Shippuden. That's the first Shippuden arc, which is once again represented by top tier cutscenes. CyberConnect 2 never disappoints in that department. And when Naruto is chasing after Gaara, credits. The game ends after the Naruto vs Itachi fight. It's not even a full arc. If I was pleasantly surprised to see that the game continued after the first credits, I was so disappointed to see where it ended afterwards. It feels like they rushed this game out because they wanted to be the first Shippuden game out there. To give you an idea of how rushed this was, Shippuden Sasuke isn't even a part of the roster. Now, despite that, there's a lot of fun to be had in Master Mode, about 15 hours of content I would say if you want to do it all, but thanks to the way it ends, it will always feel like an incomplete game to me, and that's just a huge bummer. But of course, as I mentioned at the start, that's not all there is to it. There's also another story mode called Hero Mode. In Master Mode, you will find these orbs occasionally, and they are used to unlock slideshows, cutscenes, and fights in Hero Mode. This mode goes through the vanilla Naruto story, which makes it super weird that you have to play through Shippuden first to unlock vanilla Naruto. Seems like the order is in reverse. But it's got new cutscenes, it also reuses old ones from Ultimate Ninja 3. It skips a lot of fights, replacing them with slideshows. Even when you actually have the characters to use those fights, they could just let you play that fight instead of giving you a PowerPoint presentation. Overall, it feels like a worse version of the Ultimate Ninja 3 story, and it's annoying as hell to unlock. Think about it. You're midway through the Chunin exams arc and you run out of orbs, so you gotta go back into Master Mode and hunt for collectibles before returning back to Hero Mode. Really not a fan of the way they did things here. Combat received some changes, which I really like. First of all, the ultimate you launch is no longer selected by you. Instead, it changes throughout the battle, giving you a stronger ultimate when you're at low health. Most characters can also power up by doing a specific action. Some will power up after landing an ultimate, others will power up after taunting, or characters like Neji will power up after landing a big combo, which makes characters a lot more unique than before. When you launch an ultimate, the Clash minigame is always button combinations, it's never mashing anymore, which is also a really good change in my opinion. The combinations are also the same for player 1 and player 2, so basically it's testing your reactions, seeing who reacts faster to the buttons that show up on screen. They also added a rock, paper, scissors mechanic whenever one of your attacks clashes with your opponents, which adds more RNG to this party game. Not a fan of that. And the whole combat system is still very mashy, since you can still get out of combos by spending a tiny bit of chakra to substitute, though the amount of chakra that you generate by charging has been nerfed quite a bit, but still you will almost always have enough to substitute out of a combo. In conclusion, I absolutely loved the free roaming from Konoha to the Sand Village. Always loved whenever gameplay was interrupted by a beautiful cutscene, and in combat, thanks to the different ways characters power up, each one of them feels a lot more unique. That said, the Shippuden story was definitely rushed and feels incomplete, and the battle system is still mashy and unbalanced as hell. I definitely consider this game to be slightly better than 3, so we're gonna rank it right above Ultimate Ninja 3. And with that, we move on to the next entry of the series. We're going straight into Ultimate Ninja 5. Okay, before we even talk about the game itself, we gotta talk about the way this game was released, because oh my god, it was a mess. Every single Ultimate Ninja game had at least 3 versions: the Japanese version, the North American version, and the European version. Ultimate Ninja 5 never came out in the US, which means that for the first time you've only got the Japanese version and the European version. This might not sound like a big deal, but so far I've actually ignored the European versions of Ultimate Ninja, because the European versions were all inferior games to the Japanese and North American versions. Back in the day, you had 2 different standards for televisions. In Japan and North America, TVs were NTSC, which ran games at 60 frames per second. In Europe, the standard was PAL, which ran games at 50 frames per second. CyberConnect 2 never did a good job porting their games from 60 FPS to 50 FPS. So the Ultimate Ninja games always felt much worse in the EU versions. They ran sluggish, as if the gameplay itself had been slowed down. Now, I've ignored this so far because I've been able to play the North American versions, but now the only version with English is the EU version, which means the only version that I can actually review runs like garbage. Very early in the Ranking of Naruto Games, I had to make a decision. I knew there were a bunch of weird Naruto games that were only released in Japan, and for as much as I would like to review them, I just don't understand what's going on. I think understanding the language of the game is the bare minimum to be able to review it. I understand I'm leaving out a bunch of fan favorites, but a compromise had to be made. I can only review games that came out in the West, which means the only version of Ultimate Ninja 5 that I can review is the one that runs like trash. From this point on, I hacked my very legal PS2 into running the game at 110% speed. So the gameplay you'll see from now on actually looks a lot better than what it actually is. Alright, Ultimate Ninja 5 did away with Hero Mode, so the only story mode available is Master Mode, which they improved in several ways. They reused the world from Ultimate Ninja 4, which allowed them to expand and tailor an even better story for everyone to play. This time, you actually rescue Gaara, and right after that... Okay, this credit song is a banger, but are you serious? They really just finished the arc that they left unfinished from Ultimate Ninja 4? That makes me feel even worse. It feels like they just finished the game and made you buy it again. Psych! They did it again, folks. The story continues after the credits, and it goes all the way to Sasuke versus Team 7. So it's actually a decent length story, especially given the amount of cutscenes and the fact that everything is voice acted. You can also free roam with different characters this time around and even select the team that you run with, allowing you to switch characters on the fly. Some of the movement options from Ultimate Ninja 4 were removed, which was a bummer, and they were replaced with abilities that would allow you to scout the map, destroy walls, pull levers. To unlock these abilities, you need to fight in the open world, which is even worse than before. It's not as flashy, it's just bad. But by defeating enemies, you get XP, which then you spend on the characters, and depending on where you put the points, you unlock new abilities to explore that world. This new approach to RPG, giving you the ability to level up multiple characters, was definitely a welcome change, but since the combat is terrible, and that's the only way to level up, it does become tedious. Also, for some reason, the camera controls are inverted in the European version, but they're normal in the Japanese version. Like, who told them Europe liked to play inverted? This version is a mess. After you're done with the main story, the game once again gives you a bunch of side content. Even though they're mostly fetch quests and nothing really interesting happens gameplay-wise, it's fully written in voice acting, giving life to Konoha and once again using the Naruto characters to great effect. The writing is really where most of the side quest quality comes from. The way quests pop up is also somewhat dynamic, makes the village feel alive, though it's also very easy to get stuck. For instance, if you have someone related to your next quest equipped on your current team, the quest just won't pop up, and the game won't tell you why. Once you do enough side stuff in the post-game, suddenly you unlock Sasuke's Master Mode. Straight up, gives you control of Sasuke, trying to clear this dungeon in Orochimaru's hideout. A really cool surprise, locked behind optional content. And then the game is like, hey, do this again, but with Naruto. Like, really? You had such a really nice surprise, and then you just ruin it. Like, the dungeon isn't that good. It's not good enough to play twice. Combat-wise, there were a couple of big changes. The biggest one was assists. You can now just call assists in neutral in combos while in block string while getting hit. You can just call them whenever, and the cooldown is ridiculously small, so it made the mashy combat even more mashy. But I don't necessarily think this is a bad thing, because this game was already a party game. It was already super random, not meant to be competitive in any way. The assists take it even further away from that, but that's fine, because it's in favor of fan service, which is the thing this game is very good at. And that's even better when you add specific team combos and specific team ultimates to really complete that fan service. Absolutely loves the free roaming, the side missions, the main story. It's a really fun game to play through. Discovering team combos as you unlock new characters kept it interesting, but man, that open world combat was bad. And the regular combat is even more chaotic thanks to the addition of assists. Still, it's a game that I would consider a lot better than Ultimate Ninja 4, but not quite enough to overtake Broken Bond, so we're gonna place it right there at B rank. Psych! That's where I'd put it if it didn't run like garbage. D rank. That's how bad the performance in this game is. It plays in slow motion, just like all the other Ultimate Ninja games in Europe. There's no excuse. It's the 5th game they release over here, and I've been able to ignore it so far, but this time, this is the only English version of the game. So for as good as the content is, if it runs like trash, it's not fun. I bet you weren't expecting Ultimate Ninja 5 to be ranked this low when you started this video, and to be honest, neither did I. But turns out the game that I played when I was a kid was the Japanese version. That said, this was not the last Ultimate Ninja. The series actually continued on the PSP, but that is a game for another time. As usual, folks, let me know which game you'd like me to play next in the comments down below, and thank you once again to everyone who chose to support this channel on Patreon. There's a link on screen if you want to become a supporter, and the next video poll is already up. And as always, thank you very much for watching. My name's Globku, and I'll see you next time. Bye!